Welcome back, everybody. Today is going to be a video about the 7.34E patch. It is a letter patch. It was not expected to be very large, at least by anybody who knows what a letter patch is, but it is going to be a big nerf to some of the most popular heroes during TI and a few small buffs here and there. And in this video, since there's not too much in the patch, I'm going to be mainly highlighting what I think is going to happen with the meta, and we're going to take a brief glimpse into what's happened in the first day with some of the heroes that got the big nerfs. Was it enough? Should we still be seeing those heroes? That kind of stuff. So let's just go ahead and get started. So we have some minor item changes. Got Eternal Shroud with a slight buff. I don't think that really does anything, to be honest. Hand of Midas, slight nerf. I actually think this is 10% like efficiency nerf. It's pretty large. Like, I think these type of changes will make it so that heroes that buy Midas before will still buy it, but it'll make it so heroes that just bought it because everybody bought it are no longer going to buy it. Heart of Tarrasque increased by 100 gold, and it gives you 5 less strength. So the total health on this went from 1,050 to 950. That's not negligible, right? That's like 10% less HP, and it is 100 gold more. I think a lot of these patches you're going to see so far is that all the shit that was really broken, they slightly trimmed it down. For the most part, nothing was completely gutted, but I think the best heart builders in the game will still be good, but buying heart on other heroes is going to fall out of favor. Helm of the Overlord and Vlad's got a slight buff. I don't think that's really going to do anything, like 1 AoE armor, whatever. Pavis with a 2-second cooldown. I feel like the meta pace is not going to change at all. I think the meta pace is what is dictating Pavis not really being good. I may end up being wrong, but the pace, what I mean is, are supports following around their cores after they get their first 1,400 gold. Well, before it was heroes like Pugna and Grimstroke who were already buffing you up, so they weren't buying more buffs. But maybe there's going to be certain heroes like Lich or Veno or something like this that might buy the item and follow their cores around, but something tells me Pavis just isn't going to be really a part of the meta right now. So we get into the hero changes. Slight nerf to Ice Vortex for AA, and honestly a decent sized nerf to his late game Ice Blast. I would say that since they are nerfing the tankability of some of these heroes with this, AA was already down in value. Like, the hero already wasn't as necessary. Like, I think AA was only good because he was good against what was good. So I think as tankier heroes become less picked, then AA will naturally be less viable as well. Bristleback getting absolutely gutted, as let's take a brief glimpse. Max damage on Quill Spray nerfed. Bristleback made it so that level 1, 2, and 3, it takes more damage to trigger, so you can't go for the 4-4-1 stats skill build that made you do more damage and lifesteal more. And then Hairball, which was honestly a pretty broken shard, has way lower cast range and significantly longer cooldown, all things considered. So we get a quick glimpse at Bristleback's win rate. It went from a 50.8% to a whopping 46.7%. So we see a 4% drop in one day. So I think it's safe to say, not just because of the patch notes, but also based on statistics, that Bristleback is pretty dog shit. Next up on the nerf bat train is CK with a base damage decrease of 5, which is a lot, especially on a hero that's like pretty much all right-click damage. Like, his second spell is minus armor, his third spell is a crit, and his fourth spell is illusions that benefit from base damage. So it literally nerfs everything about the hero, similar to Sven, back when Sven got that 4 base damage nerf. Lifesteal penalty on creeps. He now lifesteals 30% instead of 60, so you have half the sustain that you previously had in lane. So when we combine these two things, we go from CK winning 100% of lane matchups to probably winning, like, honestly, 50% of lane matchups. Like, this is a pretty huge nerf. Even if CK's still pickable, there's absolutely no way he's first pickable anymore, because what made him first pickable is he won every single lane, and this type of stuff doesn't leave you winning every single lane anymore. And on top of that, just to boot, they made his mana cost on Phantasm way higher, and this hero definitely has mana issues, so it's not too much higher level 1, but level 2 and 3, it's pretty massive. So CK's win rate went from 55.4% to 50.3%. So he has dropped 5% in win rate, but apparently for now, he's still statistically above 50%. But if we give this another day or two, that might not be the case anymore. Very clearly, this nerf has done the job, as CK has dropped significantly since the patch has come out. Dark Willow with a minor nerf. The biggest thing about this nerf for Dark Willow is it probably makes it even more difficult to have permanent uptime on Shadow Realm. Dazzle no longer affects Blink Dagger's 3-second mute period, which seems like a small nerf, but honestly what made Dazzle so freaking stupid was the same thing that made Tinker stupid, where unless he was permanently stunned in the late game, he could blink away, which is just dumb. So even though this seems like a minor nerf, I actually think it's a very huge nerf because there's no like in-game raid boss unkillable guy anymore. He will not be able to blink away from you. Drow Ranger, slight buff to the multi-shot cooldown. I think she's still Garbanzo Beans. Earth Spirit, cooldown now begins when the current roll is completed. I don't know how long it takes to roll. It probably takes half a second to a second to roll. So that seems like a pretty significant nerf due to the fact that especially you get Octarine Core, which made your roll 3 seconds. It probably goes from 3 to 4 seconds, you know? It probably is a 33% increase when you have Octarine Core, 25% when you don't. So overall, pretty big nerf to Core Earth Spirit, I'd say. It doesn't not affect Support Earth Spirit, but I think like the perma-rolling, no boots mid-Earth Spirit is significantly weaker because of this. Nigma, lower cooldown on Black Hole, level 1. Probably still mediocre. Maybe with the Pavis buff, because he's definitely a hero that would buy that and like follow his team around. Grimstroke, Aghanim Shard spell lifesteal now is a 20% penalty against creeps. I mean, that just seems like the most minuscule nerf ever for a hero that was picked a lot. I think heroes like Grimstroke were way better because of the meta. You wanted AA to kill these guys with Hearts of Tarrasque, and you wanted Grimstroke because he's a save. Inkswell was a dispel. So, like, the only way to deal with this Heart of Tarrasque crap is, like, Spirit Vessel and other debuffs and stuns and burst, right? So, it's like Grimstroke's Inkswell was just way too good. It's still good, but I'm saying that if they nerf Heart like they did, and the meta does shift away from that with heroes like Bristleback falling out of favor, then Grimstroke is also going to fall out of favor. I think Grimstroke, based on the kit that he has always been a hero that rides and dies based on the rest of the heroes in the meta, not necessarily himself, because usually his kit is more synergistic, and he's more concerned about what's good in the game rather than his own stuff. Gyrocopter, pretty significant buff to Rocket Barrage, especially in the early levels. I would say that this makes support gyro, perhaps mid gyro, more enticing. I'd say mostly support gyro. I'm going to definitely try 5-position gyro, as this is like 33% damage buff at level 1. So going to be giving that a try for sure. Juggernaut, small buff on Omni Slash. This is one of those cases where I think for the carry hero pool right now, it's been a long time, like of 6 months or so, where there's always been like 1 or 2 heroes that are just way better than everybody else. It's like first it was Sven, then it was CK, and you had these offlaners like Bristleback that were just like, if you're not good against Bristleback and you pick your hero and Bristleback gets picked, you're just freaking useless, you know? So I think a hero like Jug was just overshadowed by better heroes. I don't actually think Jug is like a bad hero, along with a lot of other carries, but they're just not OP. So maybe with these other heroes getting nerfed, like Jug's worth a try. Kunkka, okay, nerf to ghost ship damage, Tidal Wave, Torrent Storm. I think Kunkka's still pickable, but I have to imagine these changes are at least like a 2 or 3% win rate loss. So Kunkka's win rate today has gone from 55% to 51.7%. So he's dropped 3.3% as well. For now, he's still above 50%, but that's pretty significant. So I think I will say this. The patch has been obviously underwhelming in terms of what a lot of people hoped for, even though it is just a letter patch. But clearly the meta heroes are getting addressed. Heroes that you saw every single game. Leshrac, slight buff. I mean, it's a buff. Earthspike cast range increased by 75. I'm going to be trying Lion. I think Lion just hates Heart of Tarrasque metas, though, because, like, the best way to deal with Lion is to just not be killable by finger. He wants, like, mobile heroes that he catches with Hex. He doesn't want heroes that are 3,000 HP walking at him. So I think he'll also be kind of determined by what else is getting picked. But the fact that 75 range is nothing to scoff at. Lycan, maybe even worth trying carry now, to be honest. I think like something like carry Lycan was just absolutely gutted by the existence of Bristlebacks and such. Giving him 0.4 agility gain is no joke. Like, that's 1 attack speed every 2 levels on a hero that also right clicks a shit ton, and it gives him armor. He's universal now, so this is also damage. I'm actually going to put him on my carry list because this may be worth trying. This seems like nothing. I think this mainly hurts support Muerta. I think she's definitely not first roundable anymore. I think only Muerta specialists and Muerta like lovers will be picking this. Necrophos. Speaking of necrophiliacs, we have Ghost Shroud, slight mana increase, regen duration. So the regen you get from Heartstopper is down by 12%. And then Aghanim Scepter regen is 8% weaker, and then Death Seeker is 3 seconds longer. Like, if I look at this, you know, these are meaningful nerfs. Necro was at like 55%, but he is a regen-based hero. They did nerf his regen. They nerfed Heart. They nerfed this. So his entire build was nerfed, but I mean, I'm going to speculate like 2% drop for Necrophos. In terms of win rate, like, I think he's still going to be like 53%. Necrophos went from 54.6 to 52.6. So clearly still a very strong hero, at least in pubs. Primal Beast, Trample, mana cost. Honestly, this is like kind of a big deal, I think. That's the spell you use the most. Primal Beast definitely runs out of mana in the mid game. He already has mana issues when it comes to like late game, like buying refreshers and stuff. Like, this is another example that I am curious about, like what the win rate effect is, because like I think this might even be like another 2% win rate drop or something. But his win rate went from 49%, which has actually been fluctuating a decent amount, to 48%. Okay, so it dropped a little bit. It's not actually that big of a deal, but apparently Primal Beast is already a below average hero when it comes to win rate. Shadow Shaman getting buffed again. I think he's probably just the same as Lion though, you know? He doesn't want heroes with 3000 HP in his face. And I think a big part of supporting last patch was heroes like Pugna and Muerta. They just out-traded you, man. Like, every lane matchup, you just lose to these guys because they click you really hard. Same with Willow. So my issue with Shadow Shaman again, and I think why he wasn't getting picked in competitive, but I don't think it's as big of a deal in pubs, is because you're just not winning trades against these top tier supports from previous patch, and none of them really got nerfed in that regard. Muerta's laning stage got nerfed, but that's about it, like in terms of her W, but she still out-trades you. So I'll still be picking Shadow Shaman because he's one of my favorite supports, and this is not a buff to laugh at, but for the most part, only if you really like playing the hero. Biggest change of the patch. Everybody hold the phone, hold the front door here. It is a -1 base armor for Spectre. Now, I remember being told at TI10 behind the scenes that base armor nerfs are worth 1% win rates. That is what I was told. So I better see at least a 1% win rate drop on Spectre. We went from 55.4 to 54.8. Still 54.8%. Okay, well, Spectre stocks are still up there, boys. Girls, grab them while they're hot. Spirit Breaker, cooldown increased by 1 second, and also increased by 1 second. And damage multiplier against creeps. Like, these things are actually pretty big in my opinion. Like, I think Spirit Breaker's probably going to still get picked. But I would actually imagine his win rate's down a sizable amount. I would actually say his win rate's down by, like, 3% or something. Spirit Breaker's win rate went from 52% to 50.48. So, honestly, clearly OP based on win rate. About down to even. I would imagine he's still getting first picked and banned most games for the first day, so maybe people who are still not very good at Spear Breaker are playing him. But I'll be honest, like, this doesn't look like Menace level to me. 50.48%. Also a hero that's traditionally like a pub stomper. We also have to remember that this hero bought Midas every single game, and that got nerfed as well. I think the fact that he takes way more move speed to one-shot creep waves, I think the threshold was really close before. And then also the Midas nerf, I do think this hero is just going to get way less gold in the early game. A hero like this taking more time to ramp up, you know, it compounds. Just like interest, you know? Timbersaw, stat loss percentage by 3%. That's actually not a bad buff. Might not be that bad. Avalanche mana cost on Tiny. Back to mid. I'm going to be playing some mid Tiny. Let's go. Honestly, really nice for the early like levels in CS. Like, you do have mana problems. And then by the time you have, like, Bottle Echo Saber, you know, you're at max Avalanche. Treant Protector, 5 movement speed, which is a little bit more since he moves through trees with bonus speed. Damage heal per second decreased by 5. So it's 10, right? Because it's 5 less damage and 5 less heal. Like, this is a hero that I also have to check the win rate for, because I feel like this is maybe a 1% change. You know, I feel like Treant, his win rate last patch was absurdly high. His win rate has dropped 1.5%. So, I mean, he's still 53%. We're making dents, you know, maybe 7.34 I, and he'll be balanced. We're getting there. We're getting there. It's like 6 patches in a row that Tree's been nerfed. Weaver with the Geminate attack cooldown nerfs. Hero was getting picked a lot towards the end of TI. He was in pretty much every single pub. I think he's still going to be good. I think Weaver is still going to be a top tier carry, as the Shard Deso build is just really strong right now. And yeah, his laning stage is a little bit weaker, but it's not like that big of a deal. You weren't usually spamming this off cooldown anyways, because you want to save it for harassing the enemy heroes. Winter Wyvern base heal by 10. That's 40 heal. Poggers. Witch Doctor, damage multiplier against creeps decreased. That's actually a big deal. And now prioritizes heroes within its attack range over creeps. People were saying that this hero got buffed, but he didn't. This is a pretty sizable nerf, I'd say. That's 25% damage to creeps. Like, it used to do 2x and now it does 1.5. Pretty serious nerf to creeps. He probably doesn't one-shot creep waves anymore. Skeleton damage decreased by 3. So the damage was 37 and now it's 34. So that's like an 8% damage decrease. Also not irrelevant. I would imagine Wraith King is still pretty good, though. Like, I'll be honest. Like, it has, like, barely dropped. Like, barely. So, yeah. Wraith King, still sexy. Still OP. Very minor nerf for him. Okay. So, let's do a last-minute review of the patch notes here. So, we had a bunch of broken meta heroes. So, these are the heroes I was mainly worried about in the previous patch. Huskar Brewer specifically my tier, but these are the heroes that I felt like were really broken if played properly in terms of Lone Druid. Everything else was just kind of roll your face on the keyboard and you win. I think that Bristleback and CK are officially out of this category. I think they're no longer nearly as strong. I think Lone Druid, honestly, if you're a Lone Druid player, is still just as broken. I'm surprised he did not get touched. His win rate at my bracket's like 54%. If you're looking to learn a complex hero or like a micro hero, Lone Druid's the one to do it. I believe these 4 heroes are still going to be picked very highly. I think you should look to pick them in your pubs. I don't know if they're necessarily first roundable anymore, but at the same time, I think Tree still is. I think Wraith King probably still is. Maybe Spirit Breaker and Spectre, you have to worry about it a little bit more. But when we look at Spectre with a 55% win rate, it's like, you know, do I really have to worry? When it comes to carry, we're going to get rid of Bristleback. We're going to get rid of CK. Like, I actually think CK is pretty dead, even though he has like a 50% win rate. We'll put him like all the way down here. I think Luna and Weaver are going to be the top tier carries along with Spectre. It's going to be like a little bit of a ring around the rosy of these 3 heroes. What I think with this is that Spectre is good against Luna, and she's kind of like mediocre against Weaver, I'd say. But the thing is that I think Spectre is going to be good against pretty much all other heroes in the meta. Like, not the carry. Like, I think the carry is heavily responsible for dealing with Spectre, with, like, building into a Silver Edge and actually killing the Spectre. So I think with Spectre being, like, the defining hero of this meta from the carry role, followed up by these 2, you know, I do have Lifestealer up here. I'm eyeing him. I think Muerta is going to be significantly lower down because she was mainly played support anyways. When I look at these heroes, I think TB, very good against those. I still like Faceless Void a lot. His win rate was pretty solid last patch. Against Spectre, I like Naga. I think Wraith King can be played as carry. In regards to everything else, I think the issue we still had last patch was that there's just everybody's kind of underwhelming. I'm going to add Jug to here because he's also decent against Spectre. Like, I'm just going to have him on my radar. But, you know, I do think that these 3 heroes in the carry role are going to be by far the best. Like, it's like S tier, A tier, and then like everything else in my book. So when we look at offlane, pretty significant changes, I would say. You get rid of CK, you get rid of Bristleback. I think Centaur is going to be really high up there. I think sustain heroes are the way we need to beat Spectre. So heroes with high HP regen or natural ways of sustaining. Tide builds into Meteor Hammer. He's kind of the same. I'm kind of just thinking, what do I pick against this, right? That's like kind of what I'm thinking if I'm offlane right now. I think Primal is still okay, but I'd rather be something else in most of these games. I honestly am going to put Spirit Breaker back here. Same with Kunkka, because while their win rates are still above 50%, I think those will probably continue to go down. Let's think about offlaners that may come into the meta. I think I'm going to try Lycan specifically against Spectre. He is a sustained hero and he has low cooldown push, which has always punished Spectre. So I'm going to add Lycan there for myself. I'm also going to add Lycan to the carry pool just to try him out because of those base Agi buffs and Agi gain buffs. I think specifically everything I'm looking at is a good versus Spectre. So I want to try multiple roles for that. When we're looking at mid, I think Necro's still going to be top tier. I actually like Lina a lot right now. I think that she's going to be much better with all these melee gap closers getting nerfed. I just would be wary about picking her into heroes like Nature's Prophet. Actually, that's a hero I need to add. That hero did not get touched, something we did not mention. Nature's Prophet's still going to plague your pubs almost certainly. Mainly just global heroes is what I'm saying about Lina. Be careful about heroes that can flank you position-wise. I really think that since these melee heroes keep getting gutted, that these like beefy ranged heroes like DP will come back. And then there's going to be heroes like Lina that just beat them in lane. So I think like this is going to be kind of what I'm looking at for myself to try. But I have to remember that I'm not predominantly a mid lane player. So if you're more of a mid, you'll probably play the more flashy heroes. When we're looking at 4s and 5s, I'm going to put AA a little bit lower on my pool based on his nerfs. I still love Jakiro for myself just in terms of what he does in the game, but I don't think by any means he's a top tier support. I think Treant's still like the best 5. Like, let's not sugarcoat it. I think he's still probably the best 5. And then I wanted to add Gyrocopter to my 5s. And we're going to bump Shadow Shaman up a little bit due to the fact that he got the Hex buff. Maybe even try out Tiny. Oh, we meant to put Tiny in there. So we're going to put Tiny as a 4, and we're going to put Tiny as a mid, because I do believe that Avalanche buff will help his early game significantly. So I'd say these are like my scouting report for 7.34E. I know the patch was pretty small. A lot of people are underwhelmed by it, but this is pretty much what they've been doing the last few years. And I'm glad we got rid of the absolute bonkers heroes, but we have new heroes to look out for. I'd really think it's these 6 are the heroes that are going to be picked most games. Lone Druid's a bit more of a specialist hero, but if you see him, you know, be wary. And that's going to be it for now. I'll make sure I keep you guys updated every week with what's going on in my pubs and what I'm seeing develop in the meta, so you guys can stay up to date as well. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. YouTube SJ is out.